Picture this. After decades of working, raising a family, and weathering life's storms, you've finally reached your 60s. The alarm clock no longer dictates your mornings, and your time is finally your own. Yet something feels off. Despite the newfound freedom, many people find themselves stuck in patterns that silently undermine their golden years. Dr. Laura Carstensen, director of Stanford's Center on Longevity, discovered something fascinating in her research. Our satisfaction with life typically forms a U-shape, with happiness often increasing after 60, but only for those who avoid certain critical mistakes. According to her studies, the difference between those who thrive and those who struggle often comes down to 5 specific behaviors that many continue well past their 60th birthday. Today, I'm going to walk you through these 5 things you should stop doing once you turn 60. Each one might seem harmless on the surface, but continues to silently shape your future happiness in ways you might not realize. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the final behavior, one that nearly 78% of retirees admit to, may be the most important one to eliminate if you want to avoid the most common regret reported by people in their 80s and beyond. What if the next decade could be your most fulfilling yet? Let's find out what might be standing in your way. Letting go of who you were. The first behavior to leave behind after 60 is clinging too tightly to outdated identities. Notice how often you hear someone begin conversations with "I used to be." Whether it's "I used to be the regional sales director" or "I used to run marathons," this pattern reveals a struggle to embrace who you are now. Watch for how this manifests in daily life. The retired executive who still checks work emails. The former athlete who pushes their body past healthy limits. The parent who can't stop micromanaging adult children. These behaviors share a common root: defining self-worth through roles that have naturally evolved. The psychological mechanism at work here is what psychologists call identity foreclosure, becoming so invested in a particular identity that you resist necessary evolution. Dr. William Bridges, transition specialist, explains that meaningful life transitions require not just embracing new beginnings, but actually experiencing an ending and a neutral zone first. Many struggle precisely because they resist the ending. Consider how often you introduce yourself in social situations. Do you immediately reference your former career or achievements? Notice how your body feels when you contemplate the question, "Who are you now?" Discomfort here signals resistance to identity evolution. This resistance isn't merely philosophical, it carries practical consequences. Research from the University of Michigan found that retirees who maintained rigid self-concepts reported higher rates of depression and struggled more with purpose. Conversely, those who developed identity flexibility showed remarkable resilience. The hidden danger is that clinging to past identities prevents exploration of new possibilities. Each "I used to be" subtly reinforces that your best contributions are behind you, a belief that becomes self-fulfilling. Try this. For 1 week, practice introducing yourself without mentioning former roles. Instead, share current interests or values. Notice how this shifts conversations toward future possibilities rather than past accomplishments. Remember, letting go doesn't devalue your history. Rather, it creates space for continued growth. Your professional expertise, parenting wisdom, or athletic discipline hasn't disappeared. It's simply transformed into wisdom that can find new expressions in this next life chapter. Stop putting your health on the back burner. The second behavior to abandon after 60 is postponing health priorities. Notice how easy it becomes to dismiss subtle changes in your body with "that's just part of getting older." While some changes are indeed normal aging, this blanket explanation often masks issues that deserve attention. Watch for the mental calculations that happen when you experience discomfort. The slight knee pain you decide isn't worth mentioning to your doctor. The hearing difficulties you compensate for rather than address. The exercise routine you continually promise to start next week. These seemingly small decisions compound over time, often with irreversible consequences. The psychological mechanism driving this behavior is what researchers call temporal discounting, our tendency to value immediate comfort over future benefits. Dr. Laura Carstenson's research shows that while our time perception actually improves with age, we simultaneously become more susceptible to optimism bias about our health. Simply put, we know time is limited, but somehow believe health problems won't happen to us. Pay attention to the language you use about preventative care. I'll get to it eventually. Or, it's probably nothing, often signals this postponement pattern. Notice how quickly you schedule maintenance for your car or home compared to maintenance for your body. This avoidance pattern carries significant consequences. A landmark study in the Gerontologist found that preventable health conditions account for over 60% of diminished quality of life in people over 65. More striking was the finding that most of these conditions could have been effectively managed with earlier intervention. The hidden danger is that health postponement often masquerades as practicality or stoicism. Many pride themselves on not making a fuss or saving the doctor for real problems, never recognizing these as avoidance behaviors. Try this. Conduct a health audit this week. List any symptoms you've been ignoring and schedule appropriate checkups. Then identify one small daily health habit you can implement immediately, whether it's morning stretching, evening walks, or medication management. Remember, prioritizing health isn't self-indulgence. It's the foundation for everything else you value. Good health preserves independence, enables meaningful activities, and allows you to remain present for the people you love. The greatest gift you can give your future self is attention to your health today. Breaking the comfort zone bubble. The third behavior to leave behind after 60 is isolating yourself from new connections. Pay attention to how your social circle has evolved, or hasn't, over recent years. Many people unknowingly construct invisible barriers around themselves, interacting primarily with longtime friends, family members, and those who share identical backgrounds and viewpoints. Watch for the subtle excuses that emerge when opportunities for new connections arise. Those groups are probably for younger people. We wouldn't have anything in common. It's too much effort to get to know someone new at this stage. These seemingly reasonable thoughts often mask deeper psychological patterns around social connection and vulnerability. The research on this is compelling. Dr. Robert Waldinger, director of the Harvard Study of Adult Development, the world's longest study on happiness, found something remarkable after tracking participants for over 80 years. The quality of our relationships emerged as the strongest predictor of both happiness and physical health in later life. Yet paradoxically, this is precisely when many begin narrowing their social worlds. Notice your immediate emotional response when meeting someone new. Does curiosity arise, or do you experience subtle resistance? Observe how quickly you make assumptions about whether someone could become a meaningful connection based on surface-level differences. These reactions often reflect what psychologists call in-group bias, our tendency to favor those similar to ourselves, which actually strengthens with age. The psychological mechanism driving this isolation is Laura Carstenson's socio-emotional selectivity theory. As our time horizon shortens, we naturally become more selective about social interactions, prioritizing emotional satisfaction over novelty or information gathering. While this selectivity can be beneficial, it becomes problematic when it calcifies into complete avoidance of new relationships. The consequences extend far beyond mere loneliness. Research published in the Journals of Gerontology demonstrates that social integration, particularly with diverse individuals, provides cognitive stimulation that helps maintain mental sharpness. Each new relationship introduces novel perspectives, challenges assumptions, and creates opportunities for growth that familiar connections, valuable as they are, simply cannot provide. The hidden danger is that social narrowing often happens gradually, without conscious awareness. Many people don't realize how homogeneous their interactions have become until a crisis, perhaps the loss of a partner or a move, suddenly reveals the limitations of their social network. Even more concerning is what gerontologists call Social convoy attrition. As we age, our social convoy naturally shrinks through retirement, relocation, illness, and death. Without ongoing replenishment through new relationships, social resources inevitably diminish over time. Try this. Challenge yourself to one new social interaction each week. This might mean joining a community class, volunteering, or simply striking up a conversation with someone different from yourself. Pay attention not just to what you contribute, but what you receive from these encounters. Many report surprise at how energizing new connections can be, despite initial resistance. Remember, expanding your social circle isn't about collecting superficial acquaintances or forcing yourself into uncomfortable situations. It's about remaining open to the possibility that meaningful connections can form at any life stage. Some of the most profound friendships begin after 60, precisely because you bring deeper self-knowledge and life experience to these relationships. As author Mary Pfeiffer notes in her work on aging, the ability to form new relationships may be the single most important skill for both happiness and survival in later life. Your willingness to remain socially flexible might ultimately determine not just the breadth of your support network, but the richness of your day-to-day experience in the decades ahead. Rethinking your relationship with money. The fourth behavior to abandon after turning 60 is rigid financial thinking. Pay attention to your emotional responses when making spending or saving decisions. Do you experience anxiety when treating yourself to something special? Or perhaps you feel compelled to spend freely without considering long-term consequences. These reactions often signal deeply ingrained money patterns that no longer serve you. Watch for the extreme positions people take with retirement finances. On one end, there's the retiree who's amassed substantial savings but can't bring themselves to use it, continuing to live frugally despite having more than enough. On the other end, there's the person who approaches retirement savings like lottery winnings, spending impulsively without a sustainable plan. Both extremes stem from unexamined beliefs about money and security. The psychological framework explaining these behaviors is what financial psychologists call money scripts. Unconscious beliefs about money formed in childhood that drive adult financial behaviors. Dr. Brad Clontze's research identifies 4 common scripts: money avoidance, money worship, money status, and money vigilance. After 60, these scripts often intensify rather than diminish. Notice how your past influences your current financial choices. Did you grow up during economic hardship? You might struggle to enjoy your money even when objectively secure. Did your parents equate spending with happiness? You might use purchasing as your primary reward system. These patterns become particularly problematic in retirement when income sources and time horizons fundamentally change. The research is clear. Financial flexibility correlates strongly with retirement satisfaction. A landmark study from the Journal of Financial Planning found that retirees who adapted their financial strategies based on changing circumstances reported significantly higher life satisfaction than those who rigidly adhered to outdated approaches. The hidden danger lies in how these financial rigidities affect not just your bank account, but your relationships and well-being. The perpetually frugal retiree often misses meaningful experiences with loved ones. The impulsive spender creates anxiety for themselves and dependence. Both extremes reflect a fundamental misalignment between money behaviors and personal values. Try this. Conduct a values-based review of your recent financial decisions. Identify 3 purchases that brought lasting satisfaction and 3 that didn't. What patterns emerge? Then challenge yourself to make one financial decision that balances present enjoyment with future security. Remember, financial health in retirement isn't about following rigid rules, but creating alignment between your resources and what matters most to you. The goal isn't to die with the most money, nor to spend every last penny, but to use financial resources intentionally to support a life of meaning, connection, and reasonable security. The courage to face forward. The final behavior to abandon after 60 is avoiding end-of-life conversations. This is perhaps the most consequential pattern, yet remains the most common. Pay attention to the physical sensations that arise when topics like advance directives, funeral wishes, or legacy planning emerge. The tightening in your chest, the sudden urge to change the subject, or the impulse to make a dismissive joke. These are all signs of emotional avoidance. Watch for the subtle ways this avoidance manifests in daily life. The estate planning documents that remain unsigned in a drawer. The meaningful heirlooms left undiscussed. The ethical medical choices never clarified for loved ones. These seemingly small procrastinations often mask a profound psychological resistance. The emotional mechanism driving this avoidance is what psychologists call terror management theory. Our innate tendency to suppress thoughts of mortality to function day to day. Dr. Irvin Yalom, existential psychiatrist, explains that while death anxiety is universal, our cultural norms often lack healthy frameworks for processing these fears, leading to maladaptive avoidance. Notice how conversations about the future abruptly stop at a certain point. We eagerly discuss next summer's travel plans or a grandchild's upcoming graduation, but fall silent when the horizon extends further. This selective temporal focus reveals our discomfort with life's finite nature. The research on this topic is both clear and concerning. A comprehensive study from the National Institute on Aging found that over 70% of Americans over 60 acknowledge the importance of end-of-life planning, yet fewer than 30% have completed the most basic preparations. More troubling, those who avoid these conversations consistently report higher anxiety and poorer life satisfaction than those who address them directly. The hidden danger extends far beyond personal discomfort. This avoidance often creates profound burdens for family members forced to make critical decisions without guidance, leading to unnecessary conflict, guilt, and regret that can persist for generations. The failure to clarify wishes doesn't prevent difficult situations. It simply transfers the emotional burden to others. Perhaps most significantly, this avoidance robs us of what psychologists call generativity, the developmental need to contribute to future generations. By confronting mortality thoughtfully, we transform it from a source of anxiety to an opportunity for meaningful legacy building. Try this. Begin with one small step this week. Choose the aspect of end-of-life planning that feels least threatening, perhaps discussing what music you'd want at a celebration of life, or writing a letter to someone who has shaped your journey. Notice how facing these topics, while initially uncomfortable, often brings unexpected clarity and peace. Remember, confronting mortality isn't about fixating on death, but about making conscious choices about how you wish to live and be remembered. Those who face forward with courage often discover an unexpected gift, the ability to be more fully present in each moment, unburdened by unspoken fears. As psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross observed after decades working with the dying, it's only when we truly know and understand that we have a limited time on Earth, and that we have no way of knowing when our time is up, that we will begin to live each day to the fullest, as if it was the only one we had. As we've explored these 5 behaviors to leave behind after 60, you might recognize some patterns in your own life. Remember that awareness is the first step toward positive change. Whether it's clinging to outdated identities, neglecting health priorities, isolating from new connections, maintaining rigid financial thinking, or avoiding essential end-of-life conversations, each pattern can be transformed with conscious effort. The beauty of this stage of life is that you bring decades of wisdom and resilience to these challenges. You've navigated countless transitions before, and you have the capacity to shape these years into some of your most fulfilling. If you found value in these insights, please hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming videos on thriving in your 60s and beyond. I'd love to hear which of these resonated most with you. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, remember that it's never too late to create a life aligned with what matters most to you.